Law Call, your rights, your calls, live.
Welcome to Law Call, everyone. I'm Sandra Doherty, and tonight we've got answers to your legal questions, and here's what we've got coming up. So tonight's show, we're talking about crime and punishment. Well, kind of, sort of. But the phone lines are open, and we're ready to take your calls. That phone number, if you need it, is 478-742-1351. So if you've been stopped by law enforcement, or if you've have been searched or even issued an arrest, we'll cover those kinds of topics tonight, and just whatever other questions you have in reference to criminal law. Sorry about that, I was on the wrong camera. My apologies. And so tonight we've got our host attorney is B.J. Survant here from the Law Firm of Reynolds Horne Survant. And it's great to see you again on this chilly night.
Boy, it's cold out there, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a good show tonight, criminal law. Hopefully the calls will start picking up because usually this is a very popular show with calls. But we can talk about a lot of things, and as you know, our firm doesn't do criminal law. We do personal injury work, but we have clients that call us and say, who do we need to call? My kid's been arrested, my husband's been arrested, or whatever. And unfortunately, we have someone with us tonight to help us answer all these questions. My criminal law experience is long ago. And we have Noe Siki tonight, here from the Siki Law Firm here in Macon, and she's going to answer all the questions. And if I remember from last time,
the questions.
Yeah. If I remember from last time she did the show and a little research tonight, she went Georgia Southern undergraduate, and then Winder University, and then Mercer Law School.
And Mercer Law, yes.
Okay, and you graduated way after me from Mercer Law School.
Just a little.
Probably just got back from homecoming, I bet.
Yeah, but she has a practice of her own, and she does criminal law, and she also does some immigration work, which is very much needed in the Middle Georgia area.
It certainly is.
And since we're talking about criminal law, could you give kind of the viewers an overview of the process, I guess, is the safest way?
Yes, of course.
From arrest to trial, maybe?
Sure. So when someone is arrested, normally before there's even an arrest, if an officer feels that there's probable cause for an arrest, then there's a likelihood that they'll follow that up with issuing a warrant for their arrest. Once an arrest has taken place and someone's been booked and processed, the next step in that is really them going for a first appearance before the court and then going for a bond. So once they have a bond, then usually a couple weeks or so later, that'll be followed up with an arraignment, and that's when they're actually formally charged and made aware of what those charges are in the court, or their attorney will explain it to them. And in all states, in criminal cases, this is something that's a bit unique compared to other types of cases like family law. You have the right to an attorney, so they can ask for an attorney, and even if you can't afford a private defense attorney, you'll still be appointed someone from a public defender's office to represent you.
And does that matter whether you're charged with a felony or a misdemeanor? The right to counsel or appointed counsel?
No, that's actually across the board. So you can have an attorney appointed for a misdemeanor or for a felony case, and also for federal cases also, all the way across.
Okay. And I forgot to say this at the onset, but my view about criminal defense lawyers, they get a bad rap a lot of times because you see them on TV with somebody that the press has kind of made you think the person's guilty, and the person standing next to them doing their job defending them. What Noe does, and lawyers like her, is the most important job we have as lawyers, because they're protecting all of us, not just the person they're representing. They're protecting the rights of everybody. You hear about somebody got off on a technicality, or the defense lawyer argues they didn't prove the case like they should have. That's to protect people who didn't do anything. It's not to protect the guilty. Those rules are in place to protect those of us that haven't done anything. So,
that's exactly right. Thank you.
Well, let's head to the phone, y'all, because we've actually got our first caller on the line. We've got Stan from Gray is holding for us. Hey, Stan.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Hey, Stan.
Hey.
We are doing good. We missed you. We hadn't heard from you in a minute.
Well, it's been a while. BJ, you gonna ball me out, man?
What's your question for us
What's
you got
up,
tonight,
man?
Stan?
You doing all right, DJ?
I'm doing well. I hope you are.
Yeah, I'm doing better.
Good. What you got on your mind tonight? You probably got a 2-part or 3-parter for us.
Oh, we'll try to make a 2-part, maybe.
Okay.
A 1 and a half, maybe 1 and a half.
All right.
BJ, this got to do with we're concerned DUI, but main thing is speeding. I know the law is the law, but a lot of times I don't want to stand the law. But anyway, why is it if you get caught with DUI, you can turn around and get licensed to go to work and everything. But if you get caught for speeding, they take your license and you can't get anything to drive to go to work. Now that just don't make any sense at all to me. Can you explain that?
We can try and know. Yeah, is there a distinction in the limited use permit in the DUI setting and somebody in the speeding context?
So typically for a speeding, a lot of times your license isn't, automatically taken away like it may be with a DUI. So if someone has if it's only, a speeding that maybe depends on how fast they were going or, other factors that may play into that. But as far as provisional license for even DUI, that's not always automatically given out. So it's something that there are a lot of people who've gotten DUIs who don't get that license, to go to work or to school and things of that sort.
In a DUI setting, aren't there really 2 things going on at the same time? You've got the criminal charges for DUI, and then you have an administrative proceeding as against a license that doesn't go on at the same time in a speeding ticket type of case.
That's correct,
Okay.
yeah.
Can you explain that?
Sure, so.
To Stan and everyone else.
Oh, sure. So yes, there is the ALS procedure for driver's license, and so that's a secondary or hearing that has to take place, which is separate from the criminal charges of DUI. So oftentimes people may be having hearings, for both, and those results can differ. So
2 different processes going on at the same time,
Exactly.
arising out of the same charges.
Mm-hmm.
So it is complicated, Stan.
Yeah, it is
You have
complicated.
to deal with the lawmakers who put these laws on the books that say these things can happen, right?
That's right.
All right, let's move on to our next caller. We've got Xavier holding from Macon for us. Hi, Xavier.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing
Hey there.
well. And what's your question for us tonight?
Okay, I got a lady friend of mine that's being charged with aggravated assault, and the thing about it is something happened with her and the guy that she was going with, and another guy, but she wasn't. I think the other guy got shot, but long story short, she wasn't even there when the incident happened. But the people knew her, they didn't know the guy. So they sent the police to her, and they ended up locking her up. He's locked up right now, to my knowledge, But they got her charged with aggravated assault, and they won't give her a public defender. They wanted to get a lawyer and all that. But how can you charge a person with aggravated assault and you wasn't even there when the incident happened?
How does that happen already?
Well, so I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. The question is, someone was charged with aggravated assault who wasn't at the scene of the incident?
That's what he said.
Okay.
Right. The people, when the incident happened, they didn't know the guy that did the actual shooting. They knew of the woman. And so they sent the police to her, and they ended up locking her up, but they ended up getting the guy that actually did the shooting, but she wasn't even there when the actual shooting happened.
So sometimes if officers are receiving, conflicting stories from witnesses or people that may be involved, then, if there's enough evidence from the facts that are given to them, they may have enough to rise to the level of probable cause for them to arrest those people. So it's likely that she was arrested because of the information that they received and what they collected from their investigation. So if she hasn't been assigned an attorney yet, then I don't know how far they are in their intake process yet, but she should, fill out the forms to indicate that she's wanting to request a public defender, or her and her family or representatives can reach out to hire private counsel, like I mentioned earlier.
If she wasn't there, though, she's got a pretty good defense.
She does have a very strong defense if she wasn't there, yes.
And we'll run your information a little later in the show, so if they need to do a little bit more personal. We're going to take a quick break right here, so come back. We'll get more of your questions about crime in the law.
Welcome back to Law Call with host and longtime Macon resident Sanja Doherty, and guidance from the personal injury law firm of Reynolds Horne Survant, including the knowledge and experience of senior partner and personal injury attorney Carl Reynolds, having argued more than 300 cases in front of juries and being awarded more than $500 million for his clients. Plus, attorney Wendell Horne, designated a super lawyer with strong verdicts in auto and 18-wheeler accidents. And attorney B.J. Survant, top rated by other lawyers and known for his success in car wreck and medical malpractice cases. Law Call.
Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us tonight, we're talking about crime and punishment. Well, kind of, sort of. We know that none of our loyal viewers are out there doing any criminal activity.
And none of Novia's clients are going to be found guilty.
Yes.
But we do want to take your questions. We're here with our host attorney tonight. It's B.J. Survant from the Law Firm of Reynolds Horne Survant. And our guest attorney is Noia. I always have to make sure I pronounce it right. Noia Siki is our guest attorney tonight. And we are ready to take your questions. And we've actually got a couple of callers holding. We're going to start with Pam from Macon. Hey, Pam.
Hey, good evening, and thank you for taking my call. I really enjoyed your show.
Good, thanks for watching.
Thank you for
Thank
watching.
you.
We appreciate that. And what's your question for us tonight, Pam?
I'm calling about the new speeding cameras in the school zone.
I was waiting on that call.
Very popular topic these days.
I have not been caught, but I would like to know, where can you find the list of schools that have the cameras? And then my next question is, or part two, is it really, do the cameras, are they effective an hour before the school starts, or are the lights on an hour before the school starts and an hour afterwards?
You know anything about school cameras? Have you heard all the scuttlebutt?
I have
They're giving
heard.
out like thousands of dollars worth of fines.
Yeah. That's what I've been hearing about them. But as far as the specifics of them, I'd have to look into that.
The schools will probably tell you. The Board of Education will probably tell you.
I would
open
think the
records request maybe.
Board of
tell you.
Education would be a good place to start,
Yeah.
or open
And maybe
records.
the sheriff and the sheriff's office too.
Mm-hmm.
So I did read something where they are going to give a grace period
Right.
from now until I think right after Thanksgiving or somewhere in there, and then after that, all bets are obviously
But
they're
from
back
a
on.
criminal law standpoint, how does that work in terms of, you drive? They take a picture of your car and they
They
send you
do.
a bill. Mm-hmm. They haven't proven their case that you were driving your car, that you were speeding. They've had nobody testify you were speeding. They haven't done anything like that. And all of a sudden, they just presume you're going to pay money.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could hire a lawyer and fight it.
You can,
And they have
yes.
to prove all those things, and they probably wouldn't do that, would they?
Well, with the photo, that's pretty strong evidence. But yes, they would still have to prove everything, all the other elements as well.
The radar was working, calibrated,
Exactly,
and all
that it
kind
was
of stuff.
calibrated.
Yeah.
So, and you may have a very good argument against that. So it's certainly something to consider and weigh your pros and cons about whether you want to pay it or fight it.
I'm not advocating speeding in school zones, but I
Please
got one
don't.
of those tickets up in Atlanta on the Peach Pass, and I went over a solid white line. And-
Oh yeah,
and
you got to go with the dotted lines.
Yeah, and I didn't. They sent me a ticket in the mail, and I'm like, I wasn't even in Atlanta. And I turned over the ticket, and I'm, well, maybe I was.
So I said, when you see that photo of yourself, it's pretty
Sure does look like
convincing.
my car.
But if there's like somebody else in the household who could be driving the car, it may
Yes.
not have been you, could have been your husband, or something like that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
of course the companies will put those cameras up, take a piece of the money.
Oh, yes.
So that's why
Yeah.
they do that.
Incentive. Mm-hmm. All right, guys, let's move on to our next caller. We've got James holding from Lizella. Hi, James.
Hey, hello.
Hey, James.
Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I hear you fine.
Okay, go ahead with your question.
During a funeral process, how is the law about driving? You know, long years ago, you could just pull to the side if you were blocking the funeral process. But if you wasn't blocking it, you could go ahead, you know, with a cushion speed. But now, I don't know. I would like to know the law on that.
I guess it's
Funeral
like a
processions,
local
yeah. Well,
ordinance.
whether you're supposed to pull over when the funeral procession's coming or yield to it as it's going through a traffic light, and I think a lot might depend on whether they're escorted or not.
Yeah, oftentimes if they're escorted, then people will pull over and stop for them to pass through until the end of the procession.
Yeah, we've dealt with it before, where people pull over and stop for a funeral procession and then get hit from behind. And they want to point the finger, you stopped in the middle of a road. But, you know, they're doing what they're supposed to do is get out of the way of the procession. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the specific requirements are, James.
Go check out
But
the
that,
OCGA.
we can find out. It's in the book.
All right, we're going to take another quick break right here, so stay with us. We'll be right back. If you have additional questions for our guest attorney, Noe Siki, you can reach her at area 478-200-5783. That's here in Macon, or check out our website at www.sikilawfirm.com. And she's located on Cherry Street, downtown Macon. And if you have questions for BJ, you can reach him here in Macon at 478-405-0300 or on the web at www.reynoldsinjurylaw.com. And we are back, and we have another question coming in from Taiwan, who's holding for us from Macon. Hi, Taiwan.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good. What's your question for us tonight?
My question is, convicted felonies get caught with a firearm but haven't been in trouble over 10 years. What is the standard for the prosecution?
Possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, how long, is that lifelong ban if you're a convicted felon, or is there a time limit on how long? I think that's the way I understood the question. Is there a period of time that goes by and all of a sudden you can possess a firearm again?
So if you're, that's not the way I understood the question.
Okay, that's
but
what I heard. I'm sorry.
Taiwan, are you still there with us?
Yes.
Oh, let's clarify. What's your question? Is if a convicted felon, you said, is caught with a firearm?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is we didn't quite understand the second part of your question.
What is the limitation? Like, if that person hasn't been in trouble for 10 years but get caught, what would be the...
Okay, so if they haven't been in trouble for a long time, but then they're caught with a firearm.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so possession of a firearm is considered a felony if you've had a prior felony and and you can't have weapons. So the period that you went without getting in any trouble, that can be taken into consideration, but legally the violation itself of having the firearm is what's looked at. So they don't give as much consideration to, you weren't in trouble for 5 years or 10 years. So that's what they're looking at, is whether or not you had that firearm in your possession.
Whether you're a felon and whether you had a firearm.
Exactly.
So it's not really like a statute of limitations per thing, where time after a certain amount of time you're.
It's not.
Okay. All right, well, let's move on to our next question. We've got John holding for us from Macon. Hi, John.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, John.
Doing good.
Hi.
What you got for us?
Well, I'm just curious. I'd just like to ask a few legal questions.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. If I know somebody that's on felony probation, and he gets caught driving without a license, with no insurance. How does he get a citation and they don't do anything? But just let him walk. To where he's been in 2 car crashes. He's been caught several times. But he can go down to a license place and get a valid driver's license. So I sure like to know these answers. Because I think I know a little bit about this and that. I mean, I've done in and out over 35 years, where I don't see how anybody else can get away with that. On top of another person that's on a penalty of probation.
So you
He
got,
goes to steal things that don't legally belong to him, and he walks the streets, and they don't do anything.
so you got somebody,
Yes, ma'am.
somebody you know is on probation, and they're continuing to have traffic violations and continuing to drive. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and he's getting. I mean, just all they do is just citate him, and he's on a penalty of probation. To where I know that's a violation of probation, but why ain't he going to jail? How's he getting his driver's license? On top of being in 2 car wrecks to where they've been hit and runs, and they ain't done
Yeah,
shit.
it is.
Twice.
Doesn't sound like he needs to be driving, that's for sure.
Yeah, if he's had 2 hit and runs, I'm not sure that he was, caught for those 2 incidents. But yes, that is something that officers should and typically do look into. Someone when they're on probation, a lot of people view probation as a period of time that you're allowed to be out, and so you really want to stay on your P's and Q's and not do anything to violate any laws so that you can remain out instead of serving that sentence in jail or prison.
And if you're on probation and you commit another crime, even if it's something like hit and run, that does violate your probation.
It can.
It can violate your probation, which would then make you in trouble with your original charge as well as with the new charge.
Yes, it can. It really just depends on, whether they're able to prove that by a preponderance for the probation violation, and then also prove that actual main case.
Yeah, and I guess suspension of this driver's license, is that part of a sentence in a hit and run accident, for example? Is that one of the things the judge can do?
Exactly, yes, it is.
And then if his license is suspended, then he has another accident. He has an accident, but now he's driving with a suspended license, which is another charge, right?
Exactly, it just piles on
It
top.
sounds like he hadn't been caught by the right person yet.
Yeah, sounds a little lucky to me. I don't know. All right, let me run these numbers for you one more time before we go tonight. For our guest attorney, Attorney Siki, you can reach her here in Macon. Again, that number is 478-200-5783. That's here in Macon, and her website is www.sikilawfirm.com. She's located downtown on Cherry Street. If you got any questions for VJ, that number is 478-405-0300, and the website is www.reynoldsinjurylaw.com. And that's our show for tonight.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much for watching. We'll
Good
see you
night.
next week. Good night.